Yesterday, we had a conversation about the shadow pandemic, and we were talking about the teenage pregnancies that we've seen in the country, not just this year during and last year during the COVID pandemic, but even before that. And every year, there's a new uh, cycle of number of children who are actually getting pregnant within their teenage years, number of children who should be sitting an exam and are not able to sit an exam, number of candidates who start sitting an exam and then they go into labor and they deliver and they continue sitting exams. And we ask ourselves, so what is this? How can we get to a point where we address this? There are very many ways of looking at it. There is the issues of defilement. There's the issues of some cultural practices. There's the issue of just young boys and girls being young boys and girls. And there's a whole issue of the society. Is it a breakdown in society? Is it a breakdown in our values? What exactly is the issue? We started and we'd like to continue with this morning. And a guest that we wanted to have yesterday, but due to technical issues, we were not able to have her on. We have her on now this morning. Annastacia Olembo is a gender and inclusivity advisor at Plan International. Good morning, Annastacia.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Now, you are a gender and inclusivity advisor at Plan International. You're also somebody who's been a good advocate for all the rights, especially the gender issues and issues of children and the girl child. You
Yes.
are among those who are calling this the shadow pandemic. Why give it this name, the shadow pandemic?
Okay, thank you so much, and good morning once again. A very good question. And the reason why I am calling it a shadow pandemic is because the teenage pregnancy, we didn't know so much about it. Although we knew that it was happening, but with COVID, it has exposed us to understand that there is much more than just COVID. The lockdown and people being at home, schools being closed and children being at home with their parents, attended or not attended, and the increase in the number, even though when you look at the statistics from 2019 and 2020, the difference is very, very small. The statistics that were released by the government by the end of 2020 December, they showed us that teenage pregnancy numbers were almost the same. But we didn't know so much about this. It is an outcry. Suddenly, because now people are at home and we are able to see these girls at home in reality, then we are able to see. But it is a shadow, and it is something that we definitely need to bring it into the limelight so that we stop calling it a shadow pandemic. It is pandemic because it is affecting these girls who are 10 to 19, who are actually immature. Their body has not developed fully to be able to contain a pregnancy to term. Mortality rate of in Kenya, the health professionals have told us that it has increased. And when they look at the numbers, those who are increasing the statistics are actually between 10 and 15, which is a reason why we want to say, yes, it is a shadow, but we want to demystify that shadowness.
Anna, what are the reasons, from what you've seen, the reasons as to why young girls within this age bracket are getting pregnant? That's part A of the question. And then are we really only seeing this as a result of COVID? Because one could argue and say, well, it's because they've been stuck at home. If this COVID ends, then we would see a decline of this problem. But it would seem as if it's deeper than that. So is it only a COVID issue? And then on the other side, what are the causes of the pregnancy that we are seeing?
Let me start by saying this. Teenage pregnancy has always been there. And because of social and cultural behavior and social norms that talk about silence, we have what we call culture of silence in Kenya, where issues of sexuality are not spoken out. People don't speak at home issues of sexuality, boys and girls engaging in sex or understanding their body, how the body functions. When you are at this age, what should you be looking at? When you grow to this level, what is going to happen? So even within the gender circles, when we are training people on to understanding gender, we also try to train them to understand the difference between gender and sex, so that they know sex is an identity, and this identity is natural. There are things that begin to grow because of certain aspects of your body functionality. When children get to age between 10 and 14, that is where we begin to see girls start their menstrual period. And because in our culture, I'm saying there is a culture of silence, many children have not been taught what happens. What does menarche mean? The beginning of menstrual period. How are you supposed to be behaving? If they are taught that, they will know that when they engage in sex, they are likely to get pregnant. When a boy has started deepening his voice at age 13 because of hormonal changes, he's a man now. And if this conversation is taking place at home, then this boy will know when he sleeps with a girl who is 10, 11, 12 and has started her menstruation, she's likely to get pregnant. So coming back to your question to say, we have a culture of silence. So one of the causes, the root causes, is actually our socialization, where we sort of don't cherish the growth and development and the milestones that come with that. Number two, because there is breakdown of communication at home. My mother never told me when I'm going to get my period. So for sure, I was shocked when I got, and I was in school. So if a girl is told, when you get pains, when you get to this age, this is likely to happen, she'll start preparing. And what kind of preparation they should do. In the early ages, when a girl gets to 10 years, aunties used to be put in place to begin to speak with this girl, to tell her things that maybe the mother finds it very difficult to communicate with her. But now, we are living in this society where we are in cities, where mothers are going to work, fathers are going to work, and there is sort of like no leadership. When the parents come back home, it is already very late. They are tired. They are not able to have time with their children. So that is also an opportunity that is lost. In school, we are expecting the teachers to be teaching our children some of these practices, some of the things that are happening in their bodies. The schools have some systems, but when the schools are closed, then the parents need to continue. But then there is that disconnect. And again, the teachers are not health people. So even the knowledge that they have been given is just enough for enlightening, creating awareness. So there is also lack of that training of teachers and the parents knowing how also to communicate, to have a good communication with their children, and our societal mindset, the norms that are the cultural and social norms that also make people not discuss these issues openly.
Annastacia, let me ask you this question. In your opinion, do you really think that it is urbanization that is causing this discordance between people and their traditions? Or is it that people are moving more towards what they call some form of international culture, where they subscribe to what everybody else whom they see around them is subscribing to? What do you think it is? I'm just asking your opinion on this.
Yeah, this is my opinion. I think as we grow up, we still carry with us our culture. As we move to the cities, we still reflect on how we were socialized and what does my culture say. So I find myself every day trying to appease how I was brought up and the things that I was told to do and not to do. Even as a medical doctor, you find, yes, you've been trained as a doctor, but in terms of breaking that tradition, there are some aspects, some people have to choose to do that. So one, yes, socialization and urbanization has actually brought some things that were not there. And if you compare the teenage pregnancy, for example, at the urban area vis-a-vis the rural area, you may find the situation is different. I didn't do that comparison, but you may find the situation is different. Why? Because in the urban, there is this kind of freedom. There is internet. Our children now, they are at home and they're using the phones. They're accessing their education online. And so at a click of a finger, they're able to get information that is from US, from UK, from another place. If you don't give them the information that they want, the right information that according to your belief, you want them to have. Mm-hmm. There are values that are instilled in us as we are growing up. And I'm Christian, and I believe what the Bible says, that train your child in the ways of the Lord, so that when they grow up, they will not depart from it. And this, it's not different from science. If you train your children the right way, how they are supposed to behave, what is right and what is wrong, and what they should be engaging in positively and what they shouldn't be engaging in, when they grow up, they remember that.
So who's to do this training, Annastacia? Who is to do this training? Because it's clear, look, there's some parents, even my age right now, who will not, it doesn't matter what you do, they will not have this conversation with their children. Either they're too embarrassed, they're too traumatized by what has happened to them in their lives. They're not going to have this conversation with their offspring. So whose responsibility is it? And is it the responsibility of just one person? Or are we looking at collective responsibility when it comes? Because the numbers that we are looking at, it's not child's play. I mean, looking at other statistics, 6 out of 10 young girls in Kenya will be single parents, will be pregnant by the time they are 19 and have children. One of the highest numbers on the continent. So it didn't start with COVID. Sure, COVID exacerbated the situation. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a conversation that needed to start happening yesterday. But the question is, who needs to do this training? Because, like I said, there's some parents who are traumatized from their own experiences and not going to talk to their children. We've seen what happens at the school level where teachers are just going to give top layer information. And those that actually give information that will edify and help young people are few and far between. So what do we do?
It's not a lost game. When we call it pandemic, you know, in a pandemic, it means that huge resources have to be pulled together. The work that Plan International does is to target the adolescents and the young women and men to be able to build their skills, to give them knowledge and build that confidence so that they understand, they have information, they can question issues, they can contribute, and they can also challenge. Number two, we don't only focus on the children. We also focus on the greater group. We work with parents. We work with the communities in the areas, in the 9 counties where we are working. We reach out to families, and we train families on positive parenting. We train children on behavior change. We look at issues of children being the change themselves. But that is not enough. We also work with partners, and we look at strategic partners because each partner has a role. And so if we look at, I've said Plan is in 9 counties, and within the 9 counties, we are not in every sub-county. So who are other people who are working, who are other organizations, other agencies and government institutions who are working in those areas? We map them out and we work together. So this force is really required. And it is required so that we can have a standardized way of communicating. It is it's required so that each person sees their role very clearly and they are able to deal to come in and fill the gap. However, again, remember, we are not the government, so we have the element of influencing the government, the duty bearer, to be able to develop policies and strategies that are implemented, but not just to develop them and not to be implemented. Make people aware of what is there. What does the government say about teenage pregnancy, and what are they doing? We work with them because they have the policy, they are the duty bearers, and they have the machinery and the other resources that we can pull together, and we contribute each one, so that by the end of it, this vice is gotten away with. We have a campaign that is running, which we call a joint campaign to end teenage pregnancy and gender-based violence in Kenya. This campaign is actually in partnership with the UNESCO. It is in partnership with the NCPD, which is a government body. It is in partnership with the UN Women, and then Plan, and a media house. So we've been able to develop content, and we have been able to use a program like Mother-in-Law to sensitize people, the mothers and the fathers who are at home, the children, boys and girls, on the issues of teenage pregnancy, the causes, the roles and responsibilities that each one of them need to do. So when we do that, we are hoping that we are able to sensitize people, and they are able to change their behavior. But much more is needed. We need more resources. We need more partners. We need the government to be influenced, and that's why again we are also working with the youth, because who is pregnant? The person who is pregnant is this girl who went to maternity to deliver, and she was brought her papers to do the exam there. It is this girl who delivered, and immediately she delivered, the parents threw her out. It is this girl who is going back to school when she is still lactating, and she has all these complications of not breastfeeding because we are supposed to advocate for exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. So in response to that question, I think I've responded well in that. It is a collective effort by everybody, including the media houses. And this is one of the things we are doing this morning, which is commendable.
What I hear you saying, Annastacia, is you want to bring about what you call behavior change intervention. Now, let me ask this question. You worked with UNESCO, UN Women, and you say you've come up with some excellent documentation. Have you considered the following? Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Because if this thing is this serious, you see, we are talking about the consequences of ignorance, the consequences of activities that these young people may not be fully aware of. Have you talked about ensuring that this is something that is mandatory? It is actually taught to children at a certain age, at a level where they can understand it? Primary school, secondary school, and even made to be a mandatory unit at the university, because you're assuming that just because someone is 18 years old, they understand everything. They don't.
No, they don't.
They do not. So, if indeed you want to change behavior, then you ought to start inculcating them with this information at a time when they can absorb it, it'll be new, and it's something that they're used to. But if we leave them as a tabula rasa all these years and then you spring it upon them when they're 17, 18, 19, that information is going to be battling with every other information that they already have in their heads, and which they consider to be far more important to them than what you are telling them. So.
Yes. The other thing that actually we are doing, it is still on the discussion table, is we felt that this campaign alone was not enough, but although we reached very many and we are still continuing, we need then to target the teachers, like you've rightly said. The teachers need to have information. They need to have the right information. And we cannot work with the teachers. We cannot go direct to train the teachers without working with the right institutions, the Teacher Service Commission, the Minister of Education, and the curriculum development. So there is already work that is in progress with other partners that we are coming together. And this, of course, once it materializes, it is something that is going to be very, very beautiful, because we believe that we have seen that the teachers have a lot of influence on the lives of the children. But also, we have people we call gatekeepers. These gatekeepers of cultural practices. We have traditional leaders. We have religious leaders. These are people that we must always work with. Because like I talked before, I talked about the social norms and practices. And these social norms and practices, as long as we don't challenge them and we don't go deeper to establish where the root is, so that root is actually removed, we will work 100 years. We will go and other people will come and still be speaking the same thing. But in the work that we do as planned, we always ensure that we are challenging those social norms that are perpetuating discrimination, injustices, and gender inequalities. And these are the things, if the girls are in school and they get access to education equitably, and they get all the resources that are required in an equitable manner, and they are supported fully in terms of transition to high school and to university, for sure that is going to be achieved, and we will all be smiling. So I hear you, and I know there is something that we are doing, but again, it is not something that we can do alone. We need many more people to do.
Right.
We need to increase our advocacy and influencing to stakeholders, duty bearers, and other stakeholders. We need to have the parents trained.
Yep.
The parents need to be available to be trained. But we also need to work with men and the boys, because it is the men and the boys who make the girls pregnant. We need to have space to work with them, to educate them, to have them as partners, to have them as change agents, and also for them to understand when the girls are pregnant, it is also an issue that affects them.
It affects them as well, indeed. So everybody needs to be brought on board in this particular conversation. Thank you very much, Annastacia, for speaking to us. Annastacia Olembo is the Gender and Inclusivity Advisor at Plan International, talking to us about what she's calling the shadow pandemic, teenage pregnancies in the country on the rise, on the up and up, despite all the interventions that have been rolled out so far. Asante sana, Annastacia, and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you.
Good day.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.